All right. Well, welcome to this mentor career panel of February. Yeah. It's great to have you both here, and I hope that we can provide our viewers with a lot of information, and I myself can learn more from you guys and your careers. And you both work in STEM, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, let's start off with just introducing yourself. So I think Miss Fredette, you can go first. Unless Mr. Grossman, you want to go first.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So just introduce yourself and what you do, like what your career is about. That's it.
Okay. All right. Sure. So, hello. I'm Emily Fredette, and I'm currently working as a research and systems engineer at Ford Motor Company. But about my background leading up to here, so I studied computer engineering at school at Purdue University in Indiana. Computer engineering, kind of both half hardware, half software. I kind of like to say the best of both worlds. So you kind of like, studying both sides. After that, I started working at Ford about 2.5 years ago. And I started in a program called the Ford College Graduate FCG program. That's a rotational program where you get to rotate around 4 or 5 different skill teams around the company to experience the different areas of the company, everything from research and advanced engineering to product development to manufacturing. So I visited them all. Now I'm done with that program and I'm working full time as again, like that systems engineer on driver assistance technology. So that's a bit about myself.
That's great. Yeah. One question I did have actually is like, how long have you been doing this? Like the Ford rotational program, and how long have you been working full time? Just want to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually just finished the program in November. So that was 2.5. So yes, a little shy of 3 years here at total at Ford.
Okay. Wow. That's great. I'll get to some more questions about your individuals later, but we can start off with Mr. Grossman. So same question, like introduce yourself, what your career is, what it's about, and how you got there.
Okay, for those that don't know me, because I haven't been mentoring for a couple of years, my name is Josh Grossman. My son, Adrian, was a gearhead all 4 years. And during this, I was a mentor all 4 years plus the year after that. And I was lead mentor one of those years, his senior year. That was the year we went to the Worlds. Very exciting. Let's see. So I'm at the other end of the age spectrum here, about to age out. I'm class of 87. I went to the University of Toronto. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. So I figured, well, math will open doors. I'd never programmed a computer, never worked with hardware, no engineering background at all. And while I was at university, computer science was mandatory. I was in the College of Arts and Science, so engineering was not offered. Unfortunately, I really would have liked to have had more of a hardware background, but that would also require more of a high school level physics and chemistry, which I didn't have. Anyways, so since 87, I have been working in the field. Toronto has its own tech industry, but it's much smaller. So I was lured to come to Silicon Valley. At least at the time, the money was much better here. It's been very boom and bust. I've worked for, like 8 or 10 companies, and they're all gone or, fell on hard times and were purchased by another company, except for the one that I'm currently at. But that's Apple, so I'm hopeful that they'll survive. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of details I could fill in about my career. It's been a long one. I'll wait until you ask me specifically about that.
Yeah. I don't think Apple's going anywhere anytime soon. Okay. So I think we can move on. So that was great introduction, and lets everyone know like who you are and what you really do. So the next question is, what led you to choose your career? I think Mr. Grossman, you had gone over that a little bit. You said you were like, there was nothing else you could have done, sort of? Like you had math and then...
No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I liked math, and I knew that I wanted to do something more technical, something in STEM. I was kind of vague about that, but I figured I don't really need to know because I'm going to university. I'll find out then. And that, in fact, turned out to be true.
Right.
So they taught me software, and I kind of fell in love, really. For a long time, I was torn between computer science and mathematics. I wound up doing a dual major. So basically, I took all of the requirements to do a major in both, and I couldn't really decide. But the closer I got to the end, the more I was like, yeah, it's probably going to be computer science. And that's what I did.
Right. Is there certain like reason you chose computer science over math, like career opportunities, something like that?
I think math is one of those things like playing guitar in a rock band that it's like if you're really, really good at it, there's a bit of the superstar status. But if you're not, then I don't know, I kind of felt like you were a third-rate person, not, I don't want to denigrate, mathematicians that aren't rock stars, but it seemed like it was unlikely that I would have an exciting career in mathematics. I didn't credit myself with being a genius. And,
it's a personal
math
decision.
Is hard.
After all,
yeah, math is very hard. And I like teaching, but I wimped out. It's a hard life. I know it is a hard life, and I respect the heck out of teachers. It's more than I could do.
Right. Computer science was just a safer option for you, at least.
Yeah. So I made up for my guilt about not being a teacher by mentoring.
Well, you're here now, so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Fredette, so same question to you. What led you to choose this career?
Okay, yes. Very similar. When I entered college, I did not know where I wanted to go, like career or industry-wise. I actually didn't even know what kind of engineering I wanted to do. And I went to Purdue that has a first year engineering program. So you don't actually declare which engineering you decide what to do until after that you complete that first year. So that bought me a year to decide. And I didn't even know what industry or career I wanted to do. I had never programmed before I got to college. It was the first semester, kind of doing some MATLAB stuff. Second semester, we started doing C for programming, and I never programmed before. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And I was regretful that I hadn't had a chance to learn before that, like in a couple of years of high school or something. And that pushed me to go into computer engineering because I was still interested in like the circuit analysis, circuit design. So I still wanted that best of both worlds, hardware and software. But that's what pushed me into computer engineering. So that's how I chose that. And then throughout the next few years, I didn't know what I wanted to do, again, still industry-wise. I ended up doing a co-op program at Purdue. So that's where you alternate work and school for entire semesters. So it's kind of like a repeated internship, kind of guaranteed repeated internship, because I wanted to just get a little bit extra work experience to help me decide. And that first co-op experience was in an automotive company. And I had not intended to go into automotive because the cars I knew about growing up had like manual locks and like, windows that like you turn the crank to open the windows and stuff. So the cars were like powertrain, chassis, like, obviously core parts of vehicles even today. But I learned about the world of the driver assistance technology, DATs, and autonomous vehicles, and then where the technologies are going in the future. And I was really inspired by that. So that's how I went into the automotive industry. Was kind of just taking that co-op internship, really enjoying it, and kind of deciding to go into automotive. And I'm really happy with the decision because there's a lot happening in the electrification of electric vehicles, and then also the amount of technology that they're packing into cars these days and the driver assistance technology. So so that's kind of how I got where I am.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about like Ford being at the forefront of electrifying. Yeah, like Ford Mach-E and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, we can move on to the next question now. So, Mr. Grossman, what do you enjoy most about your career? And is there something you don't like about it? Or you prefer not to do?
I would say the thing that I enjoy most is when I can just sit down with a clean slate and design a fairly large piece of software from scratch. And then, I spend months designing it and then writing it and getting it up and running. And then I have this thing that I built. It's really very rewarding. I like that. Though that does get to be very isolating. So I do enjoy that I get the regular distraction of having to fix stuff that I wrote years ago. And that is a regular thing. I write other pieces of software that people are using regularly, and things change and there's new use cases. So there's regularly cause to work with people and get stuff done. I used to enjoy going to lunch and coffee with my coworkers, though it's been a while since we did that. I do really enjoy the work environment. I did try my hand at management and discovered that it really wasn't for me. I enjoyed taking on the role of technical lead of a large project. And so I had people under me in that sense. But when I was actually responsible for management and doing less engineering, I liked that less and less. And so I moved away from that in my career. Things that I don't like about my job. I don't like interacting with people that don't care about what they're doing. Like when they do a sloppy job, or when they want me to fix their problems, but they're not really trying to identify what their problems actually are. I very much enjoy, on the other hand, working with people that are good at their jobs and care about their jobs. It's very enjoyable to, you kind of feel like you're on a team. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. And I've also really enjoyed working at hardware companies. It's very exciting. I'm not a hardware engineer, but I've worked a lot on drivers. I worked a lot on very low level software, operating system level stuff. And at that level, you're exposed to certain nuances of dynamic performance issues in the system that you don't get in the pure software world. And I find that very exciting.
Right. So it's kind of like you got to enjoy some of the hardware stuff you couldn't do as an engineer.
Yeah. In fact, I am in the hardware department at Apple. And before Apple, I have been at pretty well exclusively hardware companies.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, got to pursue something that you wanted to do, but couldn't do it. Another thing that you were talking about was how you could, just sit alone and just write a piece of code on your own, spend months developing it. And, it kind of sounds like something that an artist would do, sits for months and paints and sort of develops his or her own thing. So yeah, it's just a nice little connection.
Yeah, I think of it more like writing a book, because, there's certain plot lines that you have to follow and certain connections that you have to explore and come up with ways of putting things together. It is artistic, but you're also, in a sense, letting the project guide itself. You're discovering it. Actually, I once heard a sculptor say that he just takes a big piece of rock and it's his job to find the sculpture inside of it.
Wow.
So that's I don't want to put too poetic a slant on what I do, but, there is a sense of I'm discovering something as I'm building it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Ms. Fredette, same question. What do you enjoy the most about your career? What don't you enjoy?
Okay, sure. But no, I like that with the analogy or metaphor. That was good. Okay, all right, same question. What do I enjoy most about my career? Okay. My career so far has been pretty short. I only just finished this rotational program, but I really enjoyed that rotational program. So, even though I had kind of narrowed down on the like automotive industry, like that's a cool place that's seems to be happening right now. It's huge. Like there's it Ford is a massive company. Like you could do, like so many different things, so many different departments. Where exactly did I want to work within that? And so I did this through this rotational program. So I worked in out of order, but I did like so customer experience sort of rotation where they would kind of prototype features before they even were like created, and then they would put them in front of people just to be tested and like we like about this hypothetical feature, what don't you? So like I worked with them, and then I did research and advanced engineering. Then I did product development, and then I did manufacturing. Like I was actually in the Dearborn truck plant. I'm seeing trucks as they came off the end of the assembly line. So like I would highly recommend that kind of like just rotational program. If you end up at a large company, there's so much to see, and you can do this to just kind of see what the options are, or even if you know exactly I want to do this within product development, even kind of experiencing those other things around the company and bring that knowledge back is beneficial. So okay, so that's my pitch on the FCG and rotational program at any company. But that's what I enjoyed about it, because now that I'm working back full time in RNA, I can bring back all of this knowledge that like I learned over the past 2.5 years and bring it back to this this work that I'm doing right now. What I enjoy, yeah. So yeah, no, I think that's what I enjoy most. Anything that I don't like or don't enjoy as much. Sometimes, especially working at kind of really large companies, you might come across like either features or employees, and like they're the kind of the mindset where if we've done it this way for up until now, why should we change how this like thing works right now? Or if it isn't broken, like don't touch it, and like that kind of like mentality. And I enjoy the challenge of like kind of trying to like shake up that mentality, because like how are you going to like innovate if you don't like challenge some things that have been the same way in automotive vehicles for many years? And if we're trying to innovate and like do like the next like DAT feature or something, like we might have to challenge some of the assumptions that we've held for like, the past 10 years of automotive industry. So that's a challenge sometimes working in a really large and like well-established company, but working in research and advanced engineering, RNA, that's kind of the department that I work in. That's what they're all about. So I'm happy to have kind of settled in an RNA sort of position where like we're supposed to kind of push those boundaries and like what if we rethought this in order to develop this new feature or something. So that's yeah, okay, yeah. So that's my answer to the second part of the question.
Right, we wouldn't have gotten this far if we didn't have people challenging the established ideologies.
Yeah, I will go ahead and like put an addendum on there that like there's often good reason perhaps that we've done things for like a long time, like the safety standards on automated or like automobiles and like these things are there for a reason. Like if so when it comes to the systems engineering, kind of like the system safety, you can't push past those things. And if you are challenging assumptions like why have we done it this whole time, you need to understand why have you done it this whole time, and then you could like propose a different solution. So I will say that sometimes there's a reason that you've done it this way, but also ask why. Can we consider it a different way? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great. Okay. Next question for both of you is, what do you do in your career on a day-to-day basis? So when you like go into office or log into Zoom or whatever, what are the things you do, your daily responsibilities, or just what you need to get done? Mr. Grossman, you can go first.
Okay, first of all, let me start by, I want to talk about some things that Emily was saying. One is that it has been my experience that there is a pull of people, a scale on which people in industry fall. And it basically, at one end, there's the cowboys, people that thrive in startup situations where they don't start with pre-assumptions about how things work. They always want to challenge the norms. They want to do exciting, interesting stuff. And at the other end, there are the pencil pushers, the people that are like, there are structures and systems for a good reason. And honestly, those perspectives are both completely right and completely wrong. And you need to have both. And it's rare when a company can balance those. And in fact, the companies that are large and healthy have found that balance. The other things I wanted to say is the two best things that I recommend for young STEM people in their careers are do a co-op program, because the experience is phenomenal. You get so much, you become a richer engineer. You learn so much more about your field by doing various internships, various co-ops. And the other one is along the same veins. See if you can do a rotational program. Again, because you get to experience so much more in a condensed amount of time. So Emily, you're living the dream. And on to the actual question. What was it? What do I do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, what do you do? What are your responsibilities, sort of thing? Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I'm in the middle of writing a large piece of software that so my team does performance analysis. We have to basically evaluate the current generation of iPads and Macs, as well as estimate the performance of the next generation. And we do that by building models and running huge suites of tests under various conditions. And I'm writing the back end that will be the next generation of software that manages the database and automatically runs the tests under various circumstances and gathers all the results. And so that's the thing that I've been designing from scratch, and I've had a great time. I'm finished the design phase. I've gone through some of the debug, and I'm starting to get almost at the point where I can actually start running tests, and it's very exciting. And that is the main thing that I do on a day-to-day basis, but I also have to fix bugs. I have one outstanding. There's a test that uses logic audio software that apparently with the latest operating system isn't working correctly. So I have to, get some hardware and check it out and figure out what's going on with that. On a day-to-day basis, like I said, no more coffee or lunch. Those are the main things. I also have to attend meetings, probably on average 1 or 2 a day, so not too many. And some of those will be where I'm working with other people that are involved with the same project, but at very different levels. And we're all sort of working together to just either to advise people that are working currently on it, or to look forward so that we're designing the correct thing in the future. And that's about it. Those are my days.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The project you're working on sounds really interesting. Like, you have to do performance tests to actually improve on stuff, right?
Yeah, I find performance analysis to be very, very exciting and interesting. It's complex. It's a lot of fun.
Another question I had for you about that testing and stuff is, did you have like a research background, or how do you conduct the research? Because you said like you do the research and then you get all the data for it.
We have a team called the Pro Workflow team, and their job is to basically say, actual users of our hardware run this software in this way. And then they give that to our team, and then we have to automate those processes and figure out how we can produce reasonable, meaningful numbers that will evaluate the performance of it. That might be how many seconds did it take to perform a task, or how many frames per second were displayed during something. And so we have the individual tests that rely on the test infrastructure, the fundamental tools for building tests. And then at the meta level above that, we have the test runners that basically decide what tests need to be run and run them and collect their output. So I've done all aspects of that. I've been on the team for like 9 years. So I was one of the people that originally architected the test running system and all of those tools. I wrote a bunch of the tests, and now I'm writing the next level up, which is the bit that, you know, runs the database and controls the test machines for gathering specific performance data. But I also work with a lot of engineers that have specific projects. Like they'll have a particular Mac or iPad that they are responsible for, and they'll be looking at the data I've collected as well as data they've collected themselves. And so I'll be working closely with them at times to evaluate their data. And that's a good example of some of the meetings that I attend, meetings to look at a specific project. And as the test guy, I represent one perspective on that world.
Right, so your information helps design the next software or something that the other engineers are working on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And what about you, Mr. Fredette? What are your day-to-day tasks? Like you talked about your rotational program. What did you do in that program? Like a little bit specifically.
Yeah, okay. I'll try not to answer the question like 5 times because we can be here for that much longer, but my cat is being very persistent about trying to get in my lap. All right, I'll bring her up here at the end. Okay, so day to day. All right, so I'm gonna start with now, kind of what I've been doing for the past kind of 3 months or so. Before the holiday break is when I switched over to this role. So RNA, and then it's a systems engineering role. I had done a couple kind of systems engineering exercises throughout my rotations, kind of dabbled it in here and there. And I did not expect to end up in a full systems engineering position when I was done. So that's kind of news to me when I was offboarding back into my team. And then they said I was going into a systems engineering role. But it's been really interesting so far. So like the high level idea behind the systems engineering is that if you have a really complex object, perhaps a car or a truck, something you sell, it's a sum of a whole bunch of different subsystems, like the powertrain, chassis, and then like all the individual driver assistants, like radars over there, cameras over there, and then steering wheel, just countless subsystems. And then like the final part is more than the sum of its parts, because like the interactions between all of these different subsystems kind of just become like so complex, and you have to make sure that they all work together as best of your ability. So so that's my kind of high level what is systems engineering, and what have we been doing day to day for that? I was put on like this new team, so it was a little bit of a slow going because there were 3 of us kind of working together on the systems engineering stuff, that none of us had true systems engineering together. So like 2 months were spent working with each other on trying to figure out amongst ourselves, what is systems engineering? What are we going to be doing? It was a few weeks of kind of like in the planning stage, and we were getting a little antsy, and we were like, we want to do something, we want to actually like contribute to the project, we want to stop planning. So that's what we've been doing for the past few months. And sometimes you get stuck in that sort of stage, like the planning to do stuff stage. But recently, so I think so the majority of all my days are filled up with meetings, but only like a third of them are kind of like those kind of planning meetings where we do report outs to like our team, and then like the supervisor, making sure that we're kind of meeting our targets for each week and each sprint. And then the rest of those are, because of we're in the virtual environment, those are like scheduled working meetings. So we put like 4 people on, like, we use WebEx, not Zoom. And then we would actually go through, right now we've been looking at functional requirements for a certain feature, driving assistance technology. And it's a highway feature. So when you drive on the highway, this feature kind of, it's like it helps you drive on the highway. And we're going through and we're defining the requirements. So these are going to be like mandated rules that will follow the feature from RNA through production into manufacturing, that kind of define what the feature is and make sure that it accomplishes what it's supposed to when we design it now, and then it's still accomplishing the same thing like through to production. So we kind of were like a lot of debate and back and forth, and then we pose one question to the group, and then that spawns like 10 more smaller questions, and then we have to go schedule more meetings with different groups on the company to like gather all this information. It's kind of like just like a series of always like hunting for like pieces of information and bringing them together to write our requirements that we would then cascade to other things. So yeah, interesting kind of role. So that's my kind of system engineering, what I've been doing right now. I also did kind of a software role in one of my last rotations, and yeah, so like I don't know, like 2/3 of my day was kind of like solo kind of development and debugging and stuff, slacking with my coworkers when I got stuck on stuff, and like it was not doing what it's supposed to, and like how I use this library, and like getting help, because you always need a little bit of assistance here and there. And then two other kind of roles that I'll just highlight was I really enjoyed that customer experience role that I did for 6 months. And that was, we spent a few months creating this like prototype with like a real steering wheel ripped out of a vehicle and like a real seat. And we hooked it up to some servos and motors, and like it would pretend to drive, the steering wheel would turn even though you're sitting in like a chair on like a push cart. So it was a really kind of scrappy prototype to kind of put a pretend feature in front of some pretend customers. So so like a customer clinic. And then we spent a few months then bringing in people to sit in this like fake feature that we had created, and then running them through it and asking them and quizzing them what they thought about it, what would you like about it, what don't you like about it, and like doing those customer clinics to try to develop a feature that we could actually put into production years from now. So that was a really cool one. And then the last one I'm going to highlight is when I was doing they call it the launch rotation, and that it's when a brand new vehicle, the new F-150 that started hitting the market about a year ago. When they are creating new vehicles and these brand new vehicles are rolling off the end of the line, they have quite a few issues. Like these are the first prototype vehicles to come off the line with like brand new hardware, brand new software, and it's the launch team's job to try to fix all of those issues. And I was on the electrical team. So when those like prototype vehicles came off the end of the line in the Dearborn truck plant, we were in those vehicles pushing every button using the touch screens, trying to find every combination of things that would cause any sort of bug or anything not working. And then once we found something, which we often did, we would then contact the engineer who was responsible for that part or that feature and make them fix it. They had like 48 hours to, we have a solution for us. Otherwise, we'd put their bug into the system and then be tracked. And so, okay, those are kind of 3, roles that I've done, the rotations, just to give you a little bit of tour of some of my work.
Yeah, that's great. One question I did have actually for your systems engineering role, right? So the system engineer your role basically is responsible for making sure all subsystems like work cohesively, something like that. Is that from what I understood?
Yes.
Like everything works together.
So I'm the systems engineer for a particular feature, but then I work with other systems engineers all throughout the company to make sure that like the interfaces between things that interact will work correctly. Again, using those requirements, writing them so that they ensure that like the behavior of all these interactions will be correct. And then, yeah.
Okay, actually, one question I have for both of you, like from whatever I've heard right now, it sounds like there's quite a bit of communication, like happening between coworkers or everyone else. So how important is that? Like, should people, my age be practicing communication by, how would you do that? Just by meeting new people? Writing, is that important? Like, just how is communication important?
All right, no, good question. I'll let Mr. Grossman go ahead and start with that one because I've been talking for a while. So your turn.
Yeah. You gave me these questions in advance, and one of the last ones is, do you have any advice? And my advice is that you have to work with people and be nice, be respectful. You want to get along with people. You're there every day, all day. And if you want your career to go well, you want to get along with people. It's extremely important. As to what you should do, it's not really about whether you can give a good speech. You will occasionally have to address a group in a meeting. So it's a useful skill, but as far as the essential communication skills, I think that just working respectfully with other people is key. Probably the single best thing for building that skill is robotics. Really, it is. It's not just a silly plug. I watched these kids work together and solve problems as a team, and it's amazing. It's producing exactly the right type of engineers. And whenever I've had to work with somebody that was unpleasant in any way, I now realize that, if they had a little more robotics, they would learn that's not cool.
Right. It's all about being part of a team and working together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Mr. Grossman, you answered that last question. If you have anything more to add, because now we're going to shift over to that one, feel free, or we can just go to Ms. Fredette.
Well, the other question, you mean the one, are there things that I wish I knew? Is there anything you wish you had known before entering your career? Or you answered the skills part, so. A lot of what I've learned has really been valuable about how to get along with people, how to work with people, and how companies work, the politics of companies. I don't think there's any shortcut for that. There's nothing I can tell you that's going to save you time from having to learn it the hard way. I guess the only thing that's really worth imparting to people that are starting on a career is that when you go to a company, it's not just that they are interviewing you. You have to find out if it's a place you want to work. So you want to find out if those are people you want to work with in that team. Obviously, if the work is exciting, but also, how is the company to work for? What do people think of the company? And when you're interviewing, you can ask directly. So at the end of every interview, the interviewer usually says, "Do you have any questions for me?" You should. You should always have questions for them. And in fact, I always sort of put a little tick as if they have good questions, I put a little tick to say, aha, they're thoughtful, they know that they should have questions. And it's going to save you a lot of heartache, because there are a lot of companies that are not pleasant to work at. A lot of companies that just want to push you as hard as they can, or that companies tend to be run by one department. Some companies are run by engineering, in which case they'll make a great product. They won't necessarily do a great job of selling it. Some companies are run by marketing. They know what product to make, but do they know how to make it? Do they have good engineers? Some companies are run by finance. Those are the least pleasant to work at, because they're always pinching pennies, and they don't necessarily make good decisions with respect to building great products. And I would say that you really want to know how the company leads that you're considering joining.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, that's good advice. Okay, Ms. Fredette, same question to you.
Okay, so the first question kind of was on on the topic of communication skills. I believe in So basically, I'm kind of gonna like +1. Like the robotics is kind of like the best way to go about that because I think the best way to learn how to communicate like in like within like an engineering team or in like corporate world is to practice, and that means doing first robotics as like you're the build season and like your off season, and then when you get to college, all like the group projects you'll be part of throughout all of your different semesters of classes, the labs, the partner labs you have to do, all of those, like when you're working with one or more other people on project, that's the practice you'll that'll help you when you get onto like internships and past that. So but yeah, so just kind of +1 to robotics. So already you're off to a good start, but just kind of like the practice part. Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on that. And then what was it? What was the next one? Anything you wish you had known?
Yeah. What did you
Yes.
wish before entering a career,
Okay,
or if you
yeah,
had known anything? Yeah.
yeah. So no, I had to think about this one, because I'm quite happy with my decision to go through the rotational program. So I'd hype that up at any company, large company that kind of offers that sort of rotational, even if it's like one, well, not one rotation, that wouldn't be a rotation, two or more rotations at any company. I would strongly suggest you consider them, even if you're sure you want to work like on this team, like on this project. If you just take an extra year or two to like tour, like you're just gonna gain so much of that breadth of knowledge. So there you go. That's so I'm glad I did that. But something I had wish I had known before, like kind of through college, I kind of I have one for that, and that's I had a plan like going into first semester of college. Like I had a plan. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I kind of kind of like the blinders, and like I was like, I'm gonna take these classes. Here's my plan to study for all 4 years, and that made me almost miss out on a couple of opportunities that were outside of that path. But thankfully, for example, like I mentioned, I had not even considered the automotive industry as like an industry for that I wanted to go into. But I went to a couple of different informational sessions and kind of like tech talks, and then I interviewed for that co-op position. And because I went a little bit out of my way for what I thought I wanted to do, then I was able to find this like even cooler opportunity and then path eventually into where I am now. So even if you know exactly what you want to do right now, just I go to those informational sessions and tech talks that like you weren't expecting to go to. Especially if they have like like the free pizza, free Subway, just go to them because they will throughout your years of college. And just like yeah, keep an open mind. And if you decide if you decide 2 semesters in like you want to switch up your major or add a minor or switch something, like consider that. Leave room for yourself to like make those changes because you're gonna probably find different things you want to do throughout college, and you might want to switch it up. So leave room for yourself to do that. So that was what I wanted to do to answer that question.
Okay. Yeah. I think we have one question from the YouTube live stream. If we're done with the other question. Oh yeah, there's a actually for you, Miss Fredette. Are there any particular skills that
Okay, sure.
you use for your career, or what you'd like to tell others?
Yeah. So okay, no, I think I had 2 things for this. So it's this one's a little possibly a little biased, but no matter what kind of major you're going into or some area, I would highly recommend you take a couple of programming classes, get some software in there, pick up a minor if you're that ambitious. That's usually only like 4 or 5 or 6 extra classes. Maybe they even count for your tech electives or something, because any role that I ended in, even if it was like a prototype or this or that, like just like a little bit of like programming experience, everyone's looking for that. I think right now. So take a couple of those classes, earn that minor if you can. If you enjoy programming well enough, of course, don't force yourself through a degree that you're not feeling, you don't want to career in. But if you have a room in your schedule for it, I highly recommend that. And then I had another thought for that. Are there any particular important skills that you have for your career? I got so distracted by like you need programming, and I really do. I really would sell that. Okay, if it comes back to me, I'll like raise my hand or something.
Yeah, for sure. Like if you just think about it, we can go to Mr. Grossman for that last part, the skills.
Sure. I mean, there are so many things that I could answer. You couldn't possibly find enough time to do all of these things. Like, for instance, I think it's really helpful and valuable to learn an assembly language. Learn about the hardware your software is running on and learn how it runs. You could also, instead of that, you could maybe take a class in compiler design. It would basically teach you the same skills. What does it mean to run software? When you give instructions to the machine, what's actually happening? I think it's very eye-opening and you learn a lot from that. That's not for everybody. I mean, some people are like, I have no interest in that. That's fine. I think Emily's advice was fantastic. I love the idea of just being open when you're getting educated to different options and explore what your options are. Go to talks and, learn about all sorts of as many different things as you possibly can. For this question, I had mostly said, get along with your coworkers, be nice, be helpful, and don't be lazy. So if you're filing a bug report and you say, this doesn't work, people are going to hate you. You want to say, I did the following things. I was running on this hardware. When I ran into a problem, I looked through the logs. I tried to find the solution in this way, and I still couldn't. So here's all the information you need to reproduce this. And it's that kind of thing that makes people, really like working with you. And conversely, you'll probably hate working with people that don't do that. But yeah, I think the people skills are the most important because, I mean, you're getting your technical skills, and what you don't learn in college, you'll get in the business. There's been a lot of really good advice about how to go about it, from, doing rotational programs. By the way, you can't do a rotation with one thing. We have it's sort of a rotation. We actually call it a boomerang program. And it's where you work 4 months in another department doing something completely different. And then you go back to your job. So
I like it. It's a boomerang rotation. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Just point to point. Just get along with people. You gotta be there every day. That's it.
Right, treat others the way you want to be treated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so I've been informed of a question on the YouTube.
Let me just add one more thing.
Of course, go ahead.
Be very careful. Never insult other people's work. It's really easy because you're an engineer and you're looking at things and evaluating all the time. Is this good engineering, whatnot? Realize that you can really hurt people's feelings. I said something that upset somebody and I felt bad about it. And I was talking to my wife about it. And she looked at me and she said, you called their baby ugly. And I thought, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And it was a life lesson learned.
Right. Influence people in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else to add? And then we can move on to the YouTube stream question.
That's it.
Did you get your
No? Okay, go ahead and do the additional question.
Okay, yeah. So the additional question is, if you were in a high school robotics team, how did that experience influence your career? Or if you were in a robotics team, how would you use that experience?
I was not in a robotics team. They didn't have them in the 80s when I went to school. And I tell you, when I first discovered robotics, I just thought, oh my God, this is so awesome. I wish that I could have done this in school. Just everything about it's just so cool to actually be working hands-on and to be working in a team. It just looked like so much fun. And because you're in school, everybody is like completely understanding. Nobody yells at you if something doesn't work, hopefully. So it's like the perfect environment to learn the skills, to try, fail, try again. Yeah, I think robotics is the most awesome program. And I absolutely love the way FIRST Robotics has been designed to be extremely positive, and to be all about teamwork and cooperation.
Yeah, it's really great being on robotics.
Absolutely.
It's quite a bit of fun. Yeah. Ms. Fredette, same question to you.
Okay, yeah. So it was I think was I part of a robotics team, and I was first FRC competitions was what got me into STEM. Okay, I'll tell my kind of I think it's a rather funny story about why I went into STEM. In study engineering, and that's at high school I was taking all of the limited tech classes at my high school, like drafting class, which included on paper, like written, drawing, drafting, and then we moved into like the Autodesk, 3D CADing software drafting, and then there's a class with like the mousetrap car and like the egg draw. So I took all of those, and then I was in the robotics team for a number of years, and then it was time to figure out like what colleges to be applying to and whatnot, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I was talking with the teacher that ran the the FRC team from the high school, and the teacher, and we were talking. I was kind of explaining that like I'm not sure like where I'm going to apply or exactly what I'm going to do, and he looks at me and is like, "You're gonna go into engineering though, right?" And that was my aha moment. That I was gonna go and engineer. Years of FRC and like taking all like these classes, and like I don't know, that's kind of like in reflection, it's kind of like my silly like aha moment of like why I went. So quite simply, yes, like that is that teacher, and like that team, that FRC team was why I went into STEM, studying engineering. He helped me figure out which kind of engineering to look into, although I still wasn't sure. So again, I went into that first engineering program, so I didn't have to decide that first year. So if you can't decide, look for programs like that. Okay, yeah, I think that answers the question. That's kind of like my reflective, kind of silly. I hadn't realized I was going into engineering the whole time I was on an FRC team, and then like it dawned on me. So yeah, that's my story. I kind of like to tell.
Yeah, so truly you always knew what you really wanted to do.
I was on the right path.
Yeah, you were just drawn to it.
It was, yeah. But FRC, it was getting me there, really. Like I was that one step away from putting it all together. Like I'm gonna go into engineering.
That's really funny. Okay, another question we have is, what do you enjoy about your major, so computer science and engineering, at your university? So, Mr. Grossman, can you answer that one?
I remember when I was in university, it was, especially in first year, it was like everything that I was studying was somehow studying, logic and thought and how we solve problems. And I loved psychology, I loved math, I loved computer science, I loved philosophy. They were all somehow, to me, it was all one subject. And I just had a lot of fun doing all these different things. It was a long time ago, so I'm not sure how much I can speak to it. And computer science in those days was taught in a much more limited sense. Now there's so much that you can study when you're studying computer science. There's so many different areas that you can go into. But even back then, languages, language design, compiler design, networking was young, but it was all the rage back then. It's fascinating learning all of these different things, and I just had a lot of fun learning, as much as I could, as many different things as I could. Now, of course, you can study AI, you can study parallel processing. There's so much you can study.
Yeah, wait, remind me which university you went to again?
University of Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Okay, great. And Ms. Fredette, so same question. What did you enjoy about your major?
Yes. Okay.
At Purdue.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So I hinted at before, kind of like the half hardware, half software. So like the circuit design and analysis, but then also like the programming classes. You can't go wrong with having both of those. You can't have one without the other. Okay, that's my sales pitch for my major, which I'm quite happy with. But another thing I kind of liked about it is that it's just by nature of what I've described it is rather broad. You could go into almost any industry with like the kind of the computer engineering as the degree, and perhaps you've sensed a theme between the first year engineering program, the co-ops, the rotational programs. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do along all of these steps. And I chose a major that allowed me to I could, almost any industry I could kind of pick and choose with that major. So if you're not sure out there, then pick something that has some, you can focus and kind of narrow your expertise once you find an industry you like. But if you're kind of worried about that, you go a bit broader. At my university, in that particular degree, something I really appreciated was, as I had mentioned, I had not programmed before I got to Purdue. And I also similarly, I was really unfamiliar with kind of just a breadboard exercises, putting the resistors in circuits 101 class and lab. And the first year in computer engineering, so my that sophomore year, was really challenging. I think I went to every single office hour they had. But it was challenging, but you didn't have to have 4 years of programming and circuit design in order to do your undergrad degree in programming and circuit design. It was challenging. It made you work for it, but yeah, you didn't need that background. So if you hadn't had those classes in high school, you hadn't been exposed to them, that's okay. They had all these study hours and stuff and resources to try to get you up to speed. And yeah, I did a lot of midnight labs with some friends, but it was still doable. It was still doable. And then I also want to throw kind of one more comment out there as well. I don't think I've mentioned, but I have an interest in the human computer interaction, side of things. If you design a feature, obviously someone's going to use it at some point, and you need to remember that user throughout the entire design process. And because of that, I decided to earn a minor in psychology. So outside of kind of the STEM world. So and I would actually suggest that get a get a minor in programming, sure. But if you wanted to get outside of STEM or something, get a minor in an area that you have a good interest in. And then you can kind of put a spin on it, and it's I have my minor in psychology paired with my computer engineering degree because I'm interested in that combination. So find a couple minors, or maybe if school offers a certificates or something, or whatever kind of programs they offer, look into those kinds of things that you can add on to your major or double major, or perhaps but yeah, look for other interesting topics for yourself and earn a minor or something. So yeah, I just want to throw that in there into that question. So
I'm going to second that. That's excellent advice. Breadth pays off in spades. The more different things you learn, and the more you can relate them to your career, you'll find that, first of all, it gives you more flexibility into exactly where you want to work. But I have found that bringing several skills to bear has made my career more interesting, and it's made me particularly valuable to people looking to fill certain positions. So that's why I've always worked in hardware departments as a software person, because I've had a strong interest in the hardware. So I've built up a lot of skills around the hardware, and that has made me a very valuable person doing software, but in the context of a hardware department. So whatever it is, whether it's psychology or, I've seen people that have gotten a second degree and they've done insanely well. I met somebody who was an engineer and a lawyer, And of course, they make 10 times more than I would ever make, and they're doing patent law. They come around, interview engineers, and fill out a patent with them. So it's amazing. There are opportunities everywhere. Whatever it is you're interested in, don't think, but this isn't programming. Think about, well, but could I do both? Are there options to do both? And if not, like, I'm interested in this. Just do it. Do what gives you joy.
Right, follow the passion. Okay, well, that was the last question. So if you guys have anything else that you've been meaning to talk about or something that we didn't cover, feel free to go ahead and do it now. Nothing?
I have a quick one kind of on the topic that we just mentioned, like that, you know, that even if like you have an interest in something like just tangential to engineering or something, it's also fun like to put that, of course, if you're in your mind, like put that on your resume, even if it's something strange, because like it might catch the eye of a recruiter that like has your resume in front of them. I was also part of like some wacky like clubs freshman year. There was like a medieval reenactment club that I was part of, and like I put it like at the bottom line of my resume, just like the bottom line, really small print right down there. And yet the number of recruiters that asked me about it and like they wanted to know about it, and then they wanted to know about me after that, right? So like, you know, that's something I'll throw out there. So even if you get like if you're going into STEM, but you're getting a minor in psychology or like one of the arts or something like that might actually be a good way to start a conversation with recruiters and stuff. So just kind of related to that last topic we were on.
Just as an aside on that topic, my wife once on her resume under interests, she wrote beer tasting, and it got her a job in finance because she got called in for an interview. And they thought, well, she's not really qualified, but I want to talk to her about this. And she ended up getting the job. So you just never know. Something
subtle but unique, like on that on that resume.
Thank you for the tip. I will definitely use it. Okay, well, I think that concludes the panel. Sure. And I just like to thank you both for being here. It's actually my pleasure for being here. I have learned a tremendous amount from you both. So just thank you. And I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I think everyone watching appreciates it.
Thank you for having us.